moms need not be afraid. It kind of takes a while for us to even get situated when we want to just conversate and record our faces. That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it's okay. I mean, this is part of the experience and learning how to mom and multitask.
Okay.
Aloha Seastar Tribe. So I'm your host, Regina, and today we're just going to talk to you about Freebirth. Introduce my co-host, my longtime friend since the Air Force. Oh my gosh.
Air Force.
Yeah, it's been a while. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Aloha Seastars. I'm Emily. Let's get into your whole Freebirth story, can you share with us, from beginning to end?
Yeah, so on, let's see, March 5th, my due date was February 22nd, and I did not expect to be past due, but I had been reading some information, some comments in some of the groups that I'm in that the third child is sometimes a little late. But once I started, I was like, okay, if I get into the first week of March, I'm gonna need to do some exercises to get her out. Cause
when you say late, how many weeks and days has it been by March 5th?
So the 22nd. So I would say it was 2 weeks and what? Oh no, forgive me, y'all. I ain't got no calendar.
So are we talking? So does that make it 40? You were 40 weeks.
Yeah. Okay. Well, no, because when I was looking at my app, it said I was 40 weeks on like the 26th or the 28th. Okay. I don't know. I'm like, how did all that work? How they estimate a due date? But then I'm not even 40 weeks until this day, so y'all tripping. But yes, I was due on the 22nd. I wasn't 40 weeks until the 26th, and then she didn't come until the 6th. So, but on the 5th, I told myself, I'm like, all right, she's just going to have to come like in the next couple of days because I can feel it in my body. And your body starts to give off like these nice little cues. Like you just kind of want to stay more closer to your house. You're not trying to travel as far. That's one of the first things that you should pay attention to when you're approaching your 40 weeks, your anything like that. It's just...
So don't go on a backpacking trip.
No, don't do that. Don't go get on an airplane. No, that's not a good idea because you're doing a lot of walking in an airport. So you're just like warming up everything, just fall out all nice and ripe. So yeah, I wouldn't suggest a whole bunch of extracurricular activities when you're around your arrival date. But for me, I was just like, all right, we're here. We're at that. We're good and ready. So I wanted her to be able to come out, but I prompted her a little bit. I'm like, I'm gonna get some last minute shopping done because there's a few things that I know I still need for this birth. So I kind of took the whole day and I made sure that I walked around each store, that I parked far, and with my last two girls, my labor always started in the morning. And so I'm like, okay, well, if my labor starts in the morning with two children, there's a good chance that with my third, it's going to be in the morning. So that's exactly what happened. I went to sleep and I woke up and I looked at the sun rising and I was just like, today's going to be different because the sunrise was just like, it was slowed down. I feel like sunrises usually happen really fast, but I was feeling like kind of space cadet-y. So that just means like you still have clouds in your mind and you're not really able to think clearly. But it's not that you're not able to think clearly. It's just, I believe that you start to have tunnel vision of what you need to do. And so your body starts preparing for that. And so all of the outside noise starts to get muted and tuned out. So then my contractions started. So my husband woke up I was like, oh, I think she's coming today. And he's like, oh my gosh, what do I need to do? Like, obviously, no. And we had obviously gone through all of that already, just, you have plan A, plan B. I originally wanted to um, have a birth at the river, but when we went before, it was like, okay, the water's kind of cold. I don't know, you don't want to shock the baby, like have the baby born into cold water.
Yeah.
So he's like, well, what if it's at night? Like the water is going to be that much more cold. And I was just like, you're right. So we also had a birth pool. And I'm going to pause right there on the birth pool because I see women going out and buying $300 birth pools and things like that when you can get a tarp and get a kiddie pool that has a nice thick high back and set it up in your house and it performs the exact same way.
Great tip.
And it's it's something that you can dispose of if it gets things on it that you don't necessarily want to save. So that's what we did. But so he set that up, or he set it up and everything. And honestly, I was in labor from 9 to 9. So a good 12 hours.
So 9 p.m. It started at 9 p.m.
9 a.m.
Oh, 9 a.m. Okay, 9 a.m.
Yeah. And then she was born at 8:59. So 9 to 9. I'm like, oh, this is a nice little, okay, hey Rainbow, we here for you. But that's exactly what happened. I used an exercise ball for most of that. I sat on the exercise ball and I moved my little body around, and I wasn't afraid to stretch. Like, I feel like that's one of the things that you want to emphasize, is just opening up your hip flexors and just like really stretching and getting your body okay with surrendering to the contractions, because your contractions come from your lower half. They don't come from your upper quadrant, they come from your lower quadrant. And so I'm like, all right, I really want to have my lower quadrant stretched out as much as possible, because I feel like you're more willing and more able to handle the contractions as they come. And the contractions feel like an intense menstrual cramp, except it's vibrating. So if it's vibrating, that just means that it's going up both ends. So my husband and I did the Bradley method. So it's just that he did anti-pressure for me. And the anti-pressure was super important because it's a natural pain relief. Like, in the hospital, they give you epidural in your lower back and you feel nothing. It's really scary, actually. Like, I don't like the idea of the thought of being paralyzed. And then just the fact of how long that needle is and it goes, oh gosh, I don't even think about it. Honey, I was like, when I think about the pain that came from the shot itself, like that's a little bit numbing in the first place. Like, you have to tune that out, and they give you a catheter because you can't feel anything.
Oh, wow.
It's a lot.
So your first 2 births, you did epidural? Was the first? Yeah. Okay. So what was it like in your first 2 births? Were you able to feel the intense contractions?
Well, yeah. Okay. So I waited a while to go to the hospital. When my first, I waited a while. I think I was in labor already for maybe 11 hours. And then I was just like, okay, they're getting really close together. And I realize now that I should have been pushing. Like, when I went to the hospital, I should have already been well on my way to have her out. But I was thinking like, oh, okay, this is now. I was young, okay, and didn't have that much education and information about how everything really worked. My second daughter, I actually think that I could have gone without the epidural. That epidural was the one where you push and it like releases the medication. So the less you push, the less you feel, or the more you feel. and the more you push, the less you feel. So I was trying to push less. I just wanted to, like, kind of feel the ring of fire, but not feel the ring of fire. So that's what I did. But with this time, I felt it the entire time, the contractions. And honestly, it's something that you can handle. It's something that we can handle. And it has a lot to do with, like, understanding that it's going to pass. It's going to pass. Like, you're not going to die from these contractions because your body is meant to go through them. Your body is literally the nesting ground for birthing. So
Absolutely.
you can handle the contractions. It's mind over matter at that point, but everything is working together for what's best for you and the baby. And the faster that you understand that, the easier it is for you to handle the process, because you're not trying to separate yourself from the contractions, you're becoming one. So that was the first thing that I did, was just like, welcome the contractions. Okay, this is just one. And then you continue talking. I really wanted to set a nice environment for my family to be a part of. It was just me and Tony, the girls, and our photographer. My girls were outside and inside, because I mean they're little kids. So, but I did want them to feel comfortable witnessing the experience, but also at the same time knowing that mommy's gonna be okay. You know, my photographer, I've known her for 10 years. So it was just easy to have her there because I've known her since I got to Maui. And that was also special because I felt like, wow, she was the first woman that I met when I got to the island. And the fact that she's here to take the pictures, I feel like it was even that more beautiful. And she is a very good friend of mine. And so it felt, again, like, this is a support that I need. This is a support that God granted me. This is support that I need. The people who are important to me are here. It's not a lot of people, but it's the people that are important. And so through the contractions, we were just having regular conversation and laughing. Talking about things that were important to us, and just, not allowing my pain to get in the way, and just really filling the room with positive vibes. And I really feel like that's important, is, not being too in your head, like, oh my God, I'm about to have a baby, but just accepting that you're about to have a family, and not feeling the need to separate yourself from the people that are there to support you. And if it is your partner, you're talking to your partner and you're letting them know, like, what you need and what you appreciate about them. And, like, me and my husband were talking about how we met with our photographer. Just like, I don't know, it was just, I just felt like we were filling the room with our, like, little happy memory bubbles, and just talking about things that were happening in the world, but the positive things that were happening in the world, and where we saw ourselves in the next 10 years, and just things like that. And it just really created a space for me to feel ready to receive our gift. And I knew, I went to the restroom, and then I came back, and I was like, okay, I went to the bathroom. I feel like I was supposed to go poo. And a photographer, she also had a home birth, and she was like, well, if you felt the need to go poop, then you're ready to push. So I was like, okay. And my husband's like, all right, let's try it. You want to try pushing? And I'm like, yeah. So it's time to get in the water. And get in the water. And it did take a minute for me to, like, find my position. My photographer, she threw out a couple of ideas, and she was like, this is where what worked well for me. And because she also had a water birth, and I found the position that I needed to be in to push her out in 3 pushes. The first push was, like, whoa. I felt
So
so.
wait, what was the position you were in?
So I guess that was kind of like in a mermaid pose, you know, like when Ariel was on the sand and she's like
Okay.
laid sideways with her
Yeah.
hair. That's what it was. Cause like
That's
you,
graceful.
yeah, like, you know, you're feeling the pressure. And so you just use your arm to push up. And so I just kept using that arm to push up, like when my contractions would come, because I was kind of at a weird angle for my husband to help. But I just pushed up onto my arm so that I could like take a full deep breath all the way through my body, and then the contraction would come, and then like take that full breath and then push on the contraction. And that part was really important because you need that strength, that like you need all of that air, you need all of that lung filled up so that you can push. I didn't realize like how much breath work that actually is, because you really do need to breathe as much as possible so you could fill up your full lung and then push that baby out, because the head is the hardest part, you know. And when I did that initial push and I felt her head, I was kind of shocked. So I was like, whoa, you know, so she vacuumed back in, like she sucked back in. And I'm like, okay. And my husband's like, look, babe, you're going to have to power through it. You're going to have to just push through it. And it's so funny because in my mind in that moment, I was just like, girl, ain't no turning back now. Ain't no, you can't turn back. You're just going to have to push through it. Like, what are you going to do? You know, you have to do it. And so I'm like, okay, this is what we planned for. This is what we prepped for. Just, you got this. And so I pushed and I felt like the ring of fire. It's like your mind is doing two things. Like, okay, I'm here. Push, just do it. Just push it. Just push. But it kind of hurts, but it's okay. Just go. And her head came out, and I'm like, okay, one more. And I did it, and she came out, and I was like, oh my God, she's there. Get her out the water. And you cry, and your husband cries, and everyone's crying. And like, kids are like, oh my gosh, there's a baby. So it was really amazing, and there was so much like oxytocin, just everything was released at one time. And I'm like, whoa, it just feels like a huge bubble of like happiness and love and like shock, because you just did something. And when you see that baby, like, it's kind of hard for your mind to like wrap. It's like you're just so, it's just, it's an amazing feeling. It's so hard to describe. And the fact that you did it by yourself, or not by yourself, but you did it with your partner, and it's just like, oh my gosh, this is here. Like, she's here, and wow. So of course, you know, I I don't know, like I just looked at her for so long, and I was kind of like, everything, it moved fast. And because we were in water, I put the towel around her, and I just looked at her for so long, and I'm like, wow, you know, you look so unique and so beautiful. Like, this is, I was waiting so long to see you, and your eyes are so precious, and you just get caught in amazement, and you kind of forget like that you were ever in pain. And I believe that's the oxytocin that is supposed to be released, so that we immediately go there, and not, we do forget about the contractions and like what we felt. And I obviously still had to birth my placenta, and I just chose to birth the placenta out of water, into the bowl that we were going to be using for the lotus birth, because again, I didn't want too much shock, like to birth the placenta into cold water, then put it into a bowl. Like, no, let's just birth the placenta in cold water and then rinse it with warm water. Just keep it on the same temperature level. Um, but it took about 20 minutes for me to birth the placenta, because I didn't rush the process. Right when I got up, we sat in the water for a little bit, but right when I got up out of the water and I hovered over the bowl, the placenta just grew lied it all out. And it was as simple as that. And I'm like, wow, okay, this whole process was just like very smooth. You know, there was no hiccups. You know, we did her weighing, we checked her out, and she was perfectly fine. She was 7 pounds, 7 ounces. Yeah, and she cried right away, you know. And it wasn't like I'm scared cry. She was just like, oh, you know, okay, I'm here. Right when I put her on my chest, she stopped and just looked at us, you know. And it's just a special experience. But I mean, I was just like, wow, my faith is just like, it was just official at that moment. Like, wow, you know, this was so much more harmonious and peaceful than going to a hospital and just having my family here and being able to like put on this new armor of courage that I didn't know that I had. It exists. It exists. It's pink. Like, you know, like it was just amazing. And I just really feel called to share this experience because we can do it. We really can. And I mean, the first thing that you should think is that you can do it and not to have all of these fears. And um, I mean, everyone's experience is going to be different. I can't say what your experience is going to be like. All I can do is tell you about mine and encourage you to plan accordingly. Only you know about your previous health um, out, like just like what you've been going through with your health, how healthy you have been, how active you've been. Um, if you do feel as though uh, an unassisted birth is something that you can do with your body, because you really do know your body. Like when you really think about it, you know your body. You know if you had trauma, if you are um, worried or anxious, or like those are things that you have time to heal during your pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
And once you get to that stage of, all right, well, it's time to welcome this baby, if that's something that you still feel like you can do, then do it. Like there's no reason, there's nothing that's preventing you from doing that except you or your mind or what you've been through previously. But we all have history. I have my own, you know. So that is my story.
So beautiful, Regina.
Thank you. I did want to touch the something that I feel like is really important is knowing how to request the birth certificate. You know, everybody has their idea of what social securities mean and birth certificates and things like that. But it is really important that you're not intimidated into that process, because people will say, oh, you can't have a home birth because they're not going to recognize the baby or you're not going to be able to get a
Yeah,
birth.
I have no idea about that. Yeah, tell me about that.
Okay, so every county has a vital records office. And the vital records office is basically where the hospital, you know, at the hospital, they give you a packet to fill out all mommy and daddy's information, and where you would go, or like the hospital will take all your information, your packet, to the vital records place, or there's a vital records person who would come pick it up from the hospital once a week or something like that. I don't know the ins and outs of when they come and pick it up. I just know that it goes from A to B. So you need to be in contact with your vital records person. And so basically, what I made sure to do was to have proof of pregnancy. So you can go and see an OB and just have them, you know, take a pregnancy test and, you know, put that in record that you are pregnant. Um, But first, you could go to a midwife. They can confirm those type of things. So one is proof of pregnancy. Two is you need proof of the time born. So for us, we recorded that. We had it recorded. Our photographer took a picture of the time and a picture of her, and we also had like the contraction checker, and so we took a picture of that as well. You know, but basically the packet. What I did was I found the vital records number online. I called and I sent an email, and I just made sure that I called every day, because in Hawaii there's a 30-day time limit. So you have to report. You have. Hey, I'm gonna be done shortly. Okay. So in Hawaii there's a 30-day time limit. So you have to report your birth within 30 days. Otherwise, you'll have to appear in court. Ain't nobody trying to do all that. So, yeah, I got a hold to the vital records person, and he sent me the packet that I needed. And so my husband and I just fill all of that out, and then we send it back to the office, and they'll send us her birth certificate and social. So it should be a very smooth process. Just know that you and your child have rights, and that nobody can say that your baby is not going to receive a birth certificate or a social security card because you're choosing to do an unassisted birth or you're choosing to do a home birth. You have rights, and you should not be intimidated by that because you may not know what the requirements are in your state.
Yeah, women have the right to decide where to give birth, who should be around when they give birth or not be around. Yeah, we totally have that right.
We do, and we need to know it and share that information, because the vital records one was tricky. I was like, I don't even know who you request birth certificates from. But you just have to dig a little bit, and then you find everything that you need, right? So, do you have any questions for me? I got someone licking their lips because they're ready to eat.
So like you said, you did a lotus birth and it popped off, right? And what did you do with your placenta? Can you share with us?
Yes. So right now I am preparing my placenta to actually put in a dehydrator so that I can actually reconsume it. And the reason I'm choosing a dehydrator method is because back in the day, they used to preserve meat by using salt. And with the lotus birth, you use a lot of salt to preserve and keep the placenta fresh. So I just added more salt to my lotus birth mixture, and I'm gonna put it in a dehydrator and eat like jerky whenever I'm feeling out of my mind. Like, ooh, girl, you need to have some of that placenta jerky. I might call it lotus jerky or something like that. Yeah, but I definitely didn't want to just not use it for the nutrients, so that's what we decided to do.
Yeah. So from what I learned, did you have to change the salt and the mixture every day?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you do. I did see that women did it different ways, though. I feel like it just depends on the person and like what they're going to use the placenta for. I mean, if you're consuming it, then you definitely want to keep it as clean as possible. But also, if you're preserving meat, sometimes they just add salt. They just keep adding the salt. So day by day, it has a new layer of salt on it. So it just depends on you and what it is your preferences are, and what you want to do and how you feel about preserving. placenta, because if you're like, I'm not eating that at all, then it is totally fine. You can bury the placenta or you can dehydrate it and make art with it. It's up to you. There's no special way to go about, um, you know, placenta exchange. But
Were
just
you,
for me, I'm gonna,
yeah.
yeah.
Were you amazed at how your placenta looked? Because first hospital births, one, I don't know of any. From what I've heard, hospital births don't respect lotus birth, and it's hard to do a lotus birth. Did you see your placenta um, when you were at
Um,
the first two births?
the second birth I did, Rhea's was beautiful. It looked like the root of it was so intricate. I was like, oh my gosh, like it's like a tree. And in Hawaii, they actually allow you to keep your placenta, but they definitely don't. I don't know of any hospitals that honor a lotus birth unless you tell them it's a religious practice, which you probably could, but I don't know. I don't know. They might be like, girl, it's not a religious practice. We know what this is.
Right.
But I don't know. I did read a few articles where hospitals were like frowning on it because if you're choosing to do a lotus birth, you're clearly not a patient, and they are not going to try and promote you to do something otherwise that would not work for business practices. So,
Absolutely, yeah.
right. So I have yet to hear about hospital respecting that choice. They say it's because of sanitation and that the placenta um, is it could you could get it infected. But my daughter, her pico, her little navel, it healed up so beautifully. Like the first, like she's honestly been like a magical little baby.
No.
She she usually cries when she's hungry, or she just needs a diaper change, or she just wants somebody to come and interact with her. But she's not like, she's not traumatized, and I'm really glad I was able to give her that experience because I feel like she was starting to kick at her root. She was starting to kick at it when she was getting annoyed with it being on there. Like, okay, I want to interact with the family. I can hear them all around, but I can't really move and sit up and see them because I have this on here. Like, I feel like babies, they are very good at being social beings. They're very good at observation. So the fact that she was quiet, she was listening, but she was limited, and that root is just limiting you. So she decided when it was going to come off. I didn't decide it. That's their first decision. That's their
Mm-hmm.
first choice. Like when that pops off, and then as long as you're watching it and you're keeping the salts um, coming, and just I put breathable clothes on her so that she would be able to heal properly. And once it popped off, it didn't it was like there was no gunk or anything like
Yeah.
that you see from when you cut the umbilical cord. It just looked really cute, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you got an outie, but not only do you have an outie, but you like it's healed already. I've
Yeah.
never seen anything like that. So that was really cool. Um uh-oh. Oh no. The husband calls. Oh, we're in the middle of something here, sir. Oh. Okay. Stand by. Sorry.
Okay.
Um okay. Um yeah, so that was pretty much the lotus birth experience for us. It was great, and I would definitely encourage more moms to consider lotus birth rather than delayed cord clamping. It's more harmonious. The baby just seems a lot more calm.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best word to describe. Their temperament is a lot more calm than when you do the delayed cord clamping.
Yeah, and from what I've read, um, even when like right, the term delayed cord clamping could even be like 1 minute later, which is not very delayed. And even with that, if you cut the cord before it stops pulsating, your you pretty much cut off at least a third of the blood and stem cells that should go to the baby. And so I
It's
think, yeah,
babies. I mean, the placenta knows what the baby needs because it was attached to the baby for 9 months.
yeah,
I mean, yeah, everything that came from us was sent to the placenta, but that's a symbiotic relationship that the placenta and the baby have. And once I did do the research about the lotus birth, and I felt so peaceful, like, oh my gosh, I just loved reading about it. And I'm like, I would like to give her that experience and just be kind of the caretaker of the placenta until it popped off, because now that's when she knows she needs me to come in. And like naturally it just felt more harmonious, oh, this is mommy, this is daddy, like, okay, now we're gonna take care of you. The placenta is gone, but we're gonna be here for you now. It
mm-hmm.
just felt like, it just felt better that way. And that's something that I wanted, and it was really or that I would want for myself. And it was really interesting because my 6-year-old, she did ask, she was like, what's this thing? It looks really different. It looks cool, but what is it? And I was like, yeah, it's her placenta. And she's like, okay, well, what is a placenta? And I was like, it's her tree. And we all need oxygen from trees. And so it's pretty much the same thing. That's what she needed for food, and it came from mommy. And she's like, okay, but she's out now, so why doesn't she just need you and your breast milk? And I'm like, well, so I had to break down the entire process for her. But she was like, okay, so they lie to children when they say that babies come from storks, because that's not true. I just saw you have our sister, and this whole placenta thing, it helps keep the baby less sick for her immune system. And I'm like, yeah. She's like, that's actually really cool. Did you do that for us? And I was like, unfortunately, I did not have the knowledge then. And she's like, oh, it's okay. Glad you could do it for Martel. Like, yeah. But it was just so interesting to have a conversation with a 6-year-old like that. There's so much that you can teach there. There's a lot of teaching points, and children are naturally curious. And so I'm like, look at that. She has a natural curiosity to understand motherhood. And this is how we should be introducing motherhood.
Yeah,
Welcoming, not going to the trauma factory, but
exactly.
actually, having it around the support system and giving children the opportunity and to ask questions and be a part of the process, and not keep them so far at a distance. Like, no, you can't come over here. It just felt a lot better, and it felt like there was less tension and less things for us, less walls that we had to put up in the name of protection. So that was a really great experience as well for me to highlight from um, this free birth journey.
Yeah, it sounds like having older children present to witness mama and birth is just it's like, yeah, you're passing on that wisdom. They're going to be able to see that, and they're going to be able to share that with their kids and their kids. So this
Yeah.
is, the beginning of setting it up for your the future generation.
Yeah. And it was definitely less traumatic because it was in water. So she didn't she was like, I saw her head, but I couldn't see where she was coming from. And I'm like, it's good. She hasn't put two and two together yet. Like, I don't want to traumatize my baby. But, like, you know, she's like, yeah, I saw her head. And that was really amazing. But she said the sweetest thing to me afterwards. She was like, Mommy, you did so good.
Oh.
And I was like, why does this feel so, like, my heart was so warm when she told me that. And like, wow, like, my oldest just told me, like, she saw what I did, and like, she appreciated that I did that. Like, it wasn't, I don't know, I just felt like, you know, a hospital would deny the experience, but the fact that she saw, like, that whole process, I was just like, oh my gosh, mind blown. There's just so many things about this journey that I didn't hit on that, you know, just like bring tears to my eyes, because it's like, it's not something that I can relive and recreate. It's just something that I get to experience one time, and it was so beautiful. I don't know, I wish and I pray that every woman have the courage, like, if she wants to go down this path, that she take it, and that her significant other take it, and just like walk it righteously without fear or protest. Like, just do it peacefully and harmoniously, and all of it, like, so much will be added onto you. It just, the gems, the fruit that I bear from this, like, it's just so much, and I could never be more grateful. Like, I really can't. There's not much for me, like, much else for me to say. I'm just so grateful that I had this experience. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So, are you looking forward to yours? Because I'm really looking forward to our next podcast, because I would like to tell you, Sea Stars, that we're gonna have Emily back after she gives birth to her bundle of joy. Are you looking forward to it? Are you excited? Like,
I'm looking forward to it, and you know, I when you told me to just keep thinking positive vibes and visualize my birth, and you know, with me and Cody, and just keep visualizing all the great things that's going to happen, is really helpful. So yeah, I'm ready to tap into, you know, the spirit, the inner knowing, the inner wisdom that I have in me. So yeah, I'll be happy to share my story.
I'm
in
excited.
3 months.
Yes. What is that, May?
May or June, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that's exciting. I know your baby's gonna be a bouncing bundle of joy, because you're a bouncing bundle of joy. Like, your baby's gonna be so beautiful. I'm so excited, and I'm excited for you and Cody, and I can't wait to hear about y'all's experience. We are definitely gonna have a part 2 of this podcast. Actually, part 2 and 3, because we both feel that it's important that you guys hear from the Papa Bears, and you know, like, what was important for them, and just for other Papa Bears out there who need to be a support system for the Mama Bear as well. It's really important that you guys have a well-rounded feedback, and like, just some real questions being answered to you, answered for you by men, and we'll probably let them run the interview this time, just so that they, you know, like, you guys can actually hear some real man chatter, and like what that looks like. So, Emily, I really look forward to talking with you in May or June, and I'm so thankful that you came and joined us. You vibed with us on this journey today, because this was a nice little swim. I'm so glad that we got to cruise, and so thank you for, or I want to say mahalo, for coming and cruising with us and just being here for this experience. And I'm so glad that you're a part of the SeaStar Tribe. And we look forward to hearing all about your journey.
Thank you. Mahalo as well, everyone. Thank you, Regina.
Yes. Okay, Sea Stars, and that's going to be the end of it for now. So stay tuned for us, and we will be back soon. Mahalo.